Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun.
Ever since I first drove one of these back in, I think it was 2018, I wanted to try one sort of properly, and I got the chance last year down on the south coast when Carl, who is a long-time viewer of both No Budget Reviews and also Ian Seabrook's channel, brought down his Mark 1 Focus automatic. Like this one, it was a 2004, so a late one, and a Zetec, but this is a different spec. It's a 3-door manual 1.8, and just like they always used to, we can see a bit of rust at the bottom of the front passenger door. Now, Carl has supplied several cars for No Budget Reviews, including that 1.6 auto Focus and the Fiat Punto, or Grande Punto I should say, we filmed over at West Kirby back in December. But now he's moved on, there's several cars down the line. I think he goes through cars faster than Ian Seabrook himself. And this is, yeah, it's a 2004 Focus 1.8 Zetec Climate 3-door. I think actually this should drive better than the Auto. The Auto drives really well, but had problems with drop links and things. This, I think, will drive a bit better. Mileage is sort of similar on this, about 110,000. These are actually the original dealer plates of the car when it was sold in Bootle in 2004. The boot is still the very, very good shape. I think it's just over 300 litres, which makes this a very practical car. Obviously you can buy an estate if you want as well. Lift it up. It's still got the spare in here and everything like that. Everything looks original under here, which is good. There is a handle up here. Actually, there's two of them, so you know, doesn't matter what side you're on, you can still reach up and close the tailgate very easily. These 3 and 5 door hatches have a control blade suspension in them. It's a form of independent rear suspension that was very well regarded at the time. The estates and saloons have slightly different suspension. This is a sort of a bit of a default type. Still, it's pretty easy to get in and out of, even though it's a 3-door. It's not difficult or anything. The door is really, really big on this, and this type of car is now very rare. The sort of standard 3-door hatchback on a mass market small family car is quite rare, unless it's a sporty model. But even think people like, you know, Volkswagen and Vauxhall have stopped making 3-door versions of their performance cars. So pretty easy to get in. No problem really at all. It's loads of headroom. Just move that back a bit. Legroom's absolutely fine as well. Carl's driving position is there, and he's about the same height as me, so no problem. We haven't got a centre armrest, but we do have a 3-point centre seat belt and a 3-point centre headrest, which is very good. Got the door bins here as well, adjustable height seat belts. For some reason it's got a weird Parrot Bluetooth kit that I will take a look at in a bit. No lumbar support though, which is probably one of the only sort of criticisms I have of the interior as a whole. This is actually a better equipped model than the last one. That was just a standard Zetec. This is a Zetec Climate, which means it has air conditioning, and I think a couple of other things as well, but the main thing, it has air conditioning. Side airbags as well in here. Door pockets are quite weird. They're not only of a different material from the rest of the seat. Sorry, it's front seat pockets, not door pockets. They're a different material from the rest of the seat, but also they kind of go all bendy like that. I don't know if that's just because the car's now approaching sort of 20 years old really. It's yeah, it's about 18 now. I just remember when these were new and not particularly liking the design, but now I think actually they're pretty stylish really, and that there's not many left that are in really nice condition. This is pretty good, to be honest, actually. Some wear on the steering wheel, that's to be expected. It's actually a leather steering wheel. You can see the stitching on here. I don't know quite what's happened to it over the years, but you know, it doesn't really matter, does it? There is a control here for the stereo, remote one. That's a nice thing to have. I think all the Focuses got that, actually. I might be wrong, but I think all of them got that. This Parrot Bluetooth kit is an aftermarket one. If you had, I think I'm going to gear, you'd have an extra bit of equipment there. I forget what that is. I was told last time. I'm afraid I've forgotten, which is stupid of me, but I have forgotten what it actually goes in there if you have a gear or something. This stereo isn't standard, actually. There was a lesser unit in here, but Carl's fitted this original 6 CD changer unit, which would have come out of a Focus back in the day anyway. This is the 6006. I think the unit that would have been here is just called the 6000. So there's the all-important air conditioning, not a blanking switch, which is good. Simple to operate. I mean, they're very keen when we designed this car to separate the different levels on the dash to make it easy to see things, and I think they succeeded overall. I can't remember what this is apart from just an ashtray. Yeah, it's one that comes out at a really strange angle as well. That is strange. Let's just check the secret mission document storage whilst we're here, which... even if those things weren't in there, I don't think we'd even actually get that. That's a bit of a shame, because you know how much I like secret mission documents years. There's a 5-speed manual. I think that actually these were known as an IB5 transmission, also used on the post-2003 Rover 45s, 25s, MG ZSs and ZRs and Streetwisers up to 1.6 litres of a petrol engine. So it's a very nice gearbox, actually, this IB5. This car's done, I think, 110,000 miles, and that still feels very tight. Normal handbrake, of course, but isn't gear or anything, so you don't get, you know, a centre console or anything. You do get the cup holders down there, which is probably where you want them, to be honest. And places for, I don't know, credit card or something there, possibly. And a little shelf there for, I don't know, not sure what you put down there. There's the OBD2 reader, too. Which is very handy to know that you can actually plug one of those in and do some scans. One really good thing about the car, I suppose, in a way, is that the boot release is up there as opposed to just trying to fiddle around on the floor, things like that. You can see my secret mission doctor do fit nicely in the door, though the pocket's not as big as I'd imagine. No electric mirrors on this Zetec. I think you had to go up a trim level to get those, or they're an option. But of course, if you can see there, that's the old Ford mirror switch, which went on from, you know, the Jurassic age to probably like the late 2000s. That was used until every sort of Ford, and some other cars as well had that too. Right, let's take a look under the bonnet. I couldn't believe I forgot that this is how you open the bonnet. You put the key in just down there and you turn it to the left and to the right. I can't believe I actually forgotten about that. It's one of the sort of main things that set these apart. Being a post-facelift car, the front end is a bit different, and so are these headlamp units with the indicators integrated in them. I don't know what I prefer, really, to be honest. I'm not sure if I prefer the earlier or later cars. Interesting shaped coolant reservoir as well. This is the 1.8 Zetec-R engine, which develops 113 brake horsepower in this particular application. It's actually not the same unit that was used in the Fiesta and also lower powered versions of the Focus. The Zetec-S or SE engine, or Sigma or Duratec or whatever, there's lots of different names for it. It was used up until very recently. I think the Mark 7 VS was one of the last cars to have it in the European markets. Actually is different. This was the engine that was released in 1991 and went into, I think, the Escort Mark 5 originally, and then the Mondeo. So the 1.8 and 2 litre versions of this engine are one, if only, the Zetec-R. The others are the Zetec-S, SE, Sigma, Duratec, whatever else you want to call it. But they are, you know, similar sort of principle. They're double overhead cam, fuel injected 4-cylinder engines with a cam belt that you need to change. It's one of the main things you need to check when you're buying one of these. Obviously we only talk about petrols on this channel, but the cam belt has been done, and also the operation of a clutch, because those can be sort of big cost items on a Mark 1 Focus, given that they're still not worth a huge amount of money, given that we're still on no budget reviews with these. Give a few years and nice, Mark 1 Focus Foci will not be in this sort of territory anymore, but at the moment they still are. Right, I think it's time to go for a drive. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. So the Mark 1 Focus was introduced all the way back in the middle of 1998. The Escort that had come before it actually was kept on sale for a little while longer, because people didn't sort of know if people would just absolutely hate the design of this new car. The new age design philosophy introduced, I think, in 1996 on the Ford Ka Mark 1 was just so different from what had come before. But people did take to it, and eventually the Escort was discontinued in 2000. But our market, obviously other markets varied. In fact, this shape of Focus continued in one form or another in some places until 2011, particularly in North America, where they never got what we call the Mark II Focus. They went straight to what we call the Mark III, although the Mark 1 was heavily revised by then. For the European markets, the engines available were a 1.4, which generated 74 horsepower. Then there was the one that is often considered to be the sweet spot engine for the normal Focus, which was the Zetec-S or SE engine with 1.6 litres and 99 horsepower. That's been in a lot of cars I've tested. This is the 1.8 Zetec-R, which is the same engine that was used in the Mark 1 and Mark II Mondeo, amongst other cars. This generates 113 horsepower, and you can feel the difference between this and a 1.6. You definitely can feel that. The last normal one at the top was a 2-litre version of this engine, due to Zetec-R, generating 124 horsepower. That was most commonly in things like the saloon and possibly the estate. The really sporty models, though, were the ST170 and the RS. They both also used a 2-litre engine, but they were turbocharged. One of them up to 167 horsepower, and the other one to 215 horsepower. There are also, of course, some diesels, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. What we do talk about, though, is the very nice ride and handling balance of the Mark 1 Focus. A lot of people say that actually this is a better handling balance than the Mark II does. I've driven a Mark II, in fact several Mark IIs now, on the channel, and they drive really well, but this is probably the purest one. It's like, with every evolving generation of BMW 3 Series, people are going to say, well, the last one was better, but more comfortable. This does feel very good. Gearbox is very slick. The ride is actually very supple. It's not got a too firm edge to it. I was remembering it having a firm edge, but it doesn't seem to. It seems to be very supple, but we'll have to actually find some proper corners to go around, and then I'll tell you about what sort of body roll and things is like on this. But the driving position is very, very good. The controls are very easy to remember where they are. Just this kind of contrasting bit in the middle of the dash, it does very much help with just identifying where the major things you're going to want are actually located. You've even got this sort of 12-volt socket here, which the end has just come off. I'll have to put that on later. Just remember this gearbox from so many other cars. My 1.4 Rover 45 also had this gearbox in it, this IB5 unit, and yeah, it's a pretty good gearbox, to be honest. On this particular car, we think the rear brakes are slightly dragging. You might hear something in the background of the video, which might be that. And the clutch is biting a little bit high. It's just this is quite an old car. I think it's just the way that it is. There's nothing wrong with it or anything. It picked up speed very well. I think 0 to 60 in this is under 10 seconds actually, so that's pretty good. Makes a pretty good noise as well, this. It sounds good. Let's drop it into 4th. It is a 30-mile-an-hour limit, so it does feel a little bit, you know, slow going 30 down this dual carriageway, but that's what the sign says and that's what we must do. But yeah, very, very easy and comfortable to drive. Visibility is pretty good, even the rear window's relatively large, so it's not really a problem to see where you're going or anything like that. You know, predictably, I quite like this car, viewers. I quite like it. I think I was surprised. I actually drove one of these when I was looking for a car for a client many years ago in London, and that had a problem with the clutch spring that was squeaking like no one's business. But this actually doesn't have that problem, and we'll just chuck it into this roundabout and see how it is. It should be wonderful. Cool, I'm sure it is. Yeah, very well weighted steering. I think this is a hydraulic setup in this car, and it feels really good, even at these kind of modest speeds. You can absolutely see why, if someone drove this in comparison to, say, a contemporary Honda Civic, that they might consider this to be better just because of the ride and handling balance on it. Even if the contemporary Civic is a very good car, this definitely just has an edge on the chassis engineering. The chassis engineering, you know, the Civic in retrospect is pretty good, but this is just a sort of generation on with the you know, control blade suspension in this car, and the refinement and the noise, vibration, harshness has really been very well engineered for a car of this age, and you can see why people just used to love them and they still love them today. My secret mission documents tell me that the Focus had a lot of trim levels. The CL, LX, Zetec gear were the sort of most common ones when the car was launched in 1998. The sporty ones, the ST170 and the RS, and then a myriad special editions. The later cars, the base level one was called the Studio, but then there were the Black, Chic, Ebony, Edge, L, Flight, Ink, Millennium, MP3, Silver, Sport, Zetec Collection, Zetec ESP special editions. This is being a Zetec Climate, of course. The car was actually built in quite a few places around the world with, you know, different variations for local markets. In South America, they were built until about, I think, 2008 or 9. In Michigan, they were actually built in the United States of America as well as Mexico. They were built until, I think, 2011. Other places in the world where they were made were Germany, Spain, Russia, the Philippines. Yeah, quite a few. I think in Venezuela as well. So yeah, popular car and built in a lot of places. So viewers, the Mark 1 Ford Focus, particularly this 1.8 Zetec Climate Manual model, is this something that you should consider with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, I don't see why not. Parts are still relatively plentiful. There's still a few of these around. Obviously, some of them have succumbed to rust and snap cam belts and you know, bad clutches and things like that. But the car of this era and this price, they're still really good to drive. They're still very practical. And there is a very good community for these, people who just keep buying them, and this is the 6th one that Carl has had, and I totally understand that. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and leave a comment below, and we'll see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring.